So I've played and I've run 2 Karazhans. I pugged one over the weekend on the PTR. Nothing amazing, nothing major. I went in as a Warlock with the default starting gear, and we still smashed it. It was some random pug of random people. All I have to say is, we wiped a couple of times, but this is a pug with no comms, no nothing, just people hosting a Karazhan, right? And I've come to the conclusion that across the board, Karazhan is very easy, but I think the player base genuinely needs this, and I don't think harder content or more skillful content is actively what the player base needs in the context of TBC Anniversary. Because people already struggle on Nightbane and Malkazar, and keep in mind, I went with the first time I did Karazhan, I went with like pre-bis and then full tier 1, right? The second time I did it, I went just the default level 70 gear, whatever it gives you. So I'm not sure if it's not a great gear. It's not a terrible gear, mind you, but it's okay gear. And I went into it. And we struggled on random mechanics or random mobs, because the average player, like the average person on the PTR, and the PTR is slightly the sweatier people, right? And a lot of people playing TBC in this round, the second go around, is going to be worse than the people playing the first time around. The quality of players has declined and dropped on the average and lower. On the upper end, Classic is much more elite than it used to be. But for the middle of the pack player base and downwards, Classic's player base has become worse, less skillful, and just overall not as competent as they used to be. This is no disrespect to the Classic player base, but for a lot of people that were sweaty or were good or were great at the game, and they aren't content creators, they're not going to be replaying a re-release. They're effectively done. So the only people that are still playing now are people that are A, content creators, people that B, had real life come up the first time around for TBC or Anniversary, and C, people have never played before. I have never seen more quote-unquote new players diving into the Classic experience than I have today in the current regard to World of Warcraft, at least in the Classic sphere of things. So, post-nerf Karazhan might have seemed extreme or overreactive to a lot of people. It might have been like, this is terrible, the game's too easy now. Bub, the game needs to be easy. People aren't good. And yes, I know you, mixed sweaty YouTube content enjoyer who sits here and watches streamers and goes on the Classic WoW Reddit and who's always on the forums, who is watching YouTube videos, are not the majority. There is over 1 million plus Classic WoW players. Over 1 million plus WoW players. Maybe close to 1.5 million. And I know people are going to be like, they're all bots. They're all this. They're all that. But if there's 9 million total subs in just NA EU, 3 million are bots or like level 20 accounts, that means 6 million people. I don't think there's 6 million retail players. I think there's about 4 to 5 million, which means there's about 1 to 2 million Classic players. Again, we're looking at the numbers Blizzard provided, and even saying there's 3 million bots or trial accounts might be slightly on the low end. It could be as high as 4 million. But I would say on a comfortable end, there's about 500,000 to 1 million Classic players who are actively playing every version of Classic WoW. There is less than 100,000 people on a daily basis or a weekly basis consuming Classic WoW content. The vast majority are not online. The vast majority are not talking or play or like discussing or watching streamers or any content. They log on and they play the game, and the vast majority of these players are not good. And that's no disrespect to them, but they only watch guides. They only watch how to play, how to beat, boss mechanics. That's why guides always have way more views than anything else. And the point I'm trying to make here is that the average TBC player this time around is worse than the average player was back in the day. They're not terrible, they're not dog shit, they're not like horrendous. They are just a lesser caliber of player, because the average player now is just going to want easier and easier content, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just something we have to accept and have to embrace. Having watched over a dozen Karazhan clears and having completed 2 myself, I can comfortably say the average player does not want hard raids. The people online, the people in my chat, the people in YouTube comment sections, on the forums, on Reddit, they want harder raids. They are, I would comfortably say, less than 10% of the player base. Because easy raids means more people completing raids, it means more alts completing raids, it means more players across the board completing the content. Keep in mind, by SSC and TTK, without nerfs, these players were never going to clear it. Even with nerfs, with post-nerf, they're probably still going to struggle to clear it. Even if they nerf Sunwell, even harder than it already got by post-nerf Sunwell, people are still not going to clear it. The more difficulty there is, the less people will clear the content. It's simple math, there's no magic around this. Look at, in this context, Naxxramas in 2019 or 2021, I guess, versus Naxxramas in 2025. There is a fraction of the clears and a fraction of the players rating at that high level, because a lot of people are just ass. Because they're not full-time players, they're not sweaty, they're not like, I am a streamer, I am sweaty. Let's keep it real. Even me, as an average quote-unquote bad player, I pass 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm a dog shit gamer. I am not good at WoW. I see some of my boys like Mincy and Roth and other people who get 99s and 100s. Those are sweaty players. Those are elite players. But that is the 1%. Those are the challenges in comparison to League of Legends. The average person like me who's quote-unquote diamond or low masters, that's sweaty. The average player is not good. The average person is objectively not good. And that's what I'm trying to say here, is that going post-nerf, being easier in general, is what the average player base wants. We saw this in retail, right? The retailification of World of Warcraft. The game got easier and easier and easier. Everyone was like, oh my god, bad game, this game. So the game got easier and easier, so they made the raiding get drastically harder and harder and harder, to the point where the 90% wouldn't raid. They couldn't raid. Looking for Raid had like 5 or 6x every other raid group combined in player numbers. Because the average person, turn a brain off, do content and move on. People forget how many people play the game in a completely alien way to you, right? Okay, let's use hardcore WoW. There are so many people leveling in hardcore WoW, just leveling anniversary, and do not raid, do not do any endgame dungeons. They simply log on, play the game, level up a character, get 60, and then say that was nice. And they start their next character. There are hundreds of thousands of these people, but people don't consider them quote-unquote real gamers, quote-unquote great gamers. Not because they're not gaming, but because they only look at raid logs. Raid logs are not indicative of the actual player base. They're not indicative of the true players. There's a reason why retail got so casual for so many of its activities, because that's how the player base played. Collectors, transmog hunters, mountain hunters, achievement hunters. There are more people doing that content than there are people raiding. But raiding has to be the end all, the upper class, the upper echelon of the game, the end game. It's why Mythic Plus is so popular. It's a sweatier version of dungeons. It's more accessible for a 5-man group than a raiders. So going into Karazhan, SSC, TTK, and all these other upcoming raids in TBC, post-nerf, we might not like it. And that's okay, because we are not the majority. And like, that sucks to say. But I think easier content is the way to go. I just simply think that's the future of classic WoW. And I think we saw this, for example, in Season of Discovery. Scarlet Enclave was so hard, they had to nerf it into the ground. Sunken Temple, literally impossible for the average guild. Impossible. People want hard content, but they want accessible hard content. And TBC's content is either hard or accessible, not both. Sunwell is going to molest every single guild you know. It's going to straight up fucking destroy them. Torch them into oblivion. And that's just simply what it is. And I think they've accepted it. And that's why they just should post-nerf from the rip. It's easier to just make the game super easy and forget about TBC Anniversary while they work on class spots with their entire dev team, because there can't be more than 2 or 3 people on TBC Anniversary. Let's keep it real here. Everybody else is working on the next big project. They just let it rip. Post-nerf, fixed, easy, more terror cones, less bots, this and, well, no, not less bots. They didn't fix that. And they just let people go. And I think that's the thing that the devs are doing. They're trying to not waste more resources or time on TBC with post-nerf or patch notes or fixing this or tweaking that. Post-nerf from the rip. Easy fucking peasy. It's simply what it is.